you've really done it again, Dem-Dems. You've come to the wrong place at the wrong time. That means you must be in the wrong stuff. Guy Denton, how you doing?
That intro just gets more and more life-affirming and exciting every time I hear it, Matt. And purely on that basis alone, I'm feeling great, and I'm happy to be back with you.
What did you make? This is a crazy week. There's a lot of wild stuff happening. Luigi Mangione, I think is how we pronounce this guy's name. 26-year-old kind of elite Ivy Leaguer. I guess now it was last week that this happened, but they've now allegedly the shooter of the CEO of United Healthcare. Wild story. What did you make of this whole thing?
I think the only appropriate response, and I know we usually try to strike a lighthearted and jovial kind of tone on this show, which may be a little bit difficult with this subject, but for good reason. I think the only appropriate response to this is to condemn it unreservedly. This was a craven and disgusting act of cold-blooded murder on the part of, as we are seeing new details come to light in some interesting reporting. The Post had a long piece today about his background, and particularly the last 6 months of his life prior to the killing. The Journal has done some interesting reporting on it too over the last day or two. This is a case. It is seemingly coming to light of a deeply disturbed, troubled young man who withdrew from society, which has become a disturbingly common trend among young men in recent years, particularly since the advent of the internet, and who went out to commit a cowardly and barbarous act that should in no way, shape, or form be condoned or celebrated or sympathized with, despite what many people on social media who are trying to portray him as some kind of noble revolutionary would have you believe.
Well, okay, so this is interesting, right? This guy is not like one of these incels who is, you know, angry at the world, and this is a guy who is a winner, ostensibly. I mean, he's a Ivy Leaguer, valedictorian, but apparently he had something happened. He had an injury or something. He had back problems, and I have to tell you, Guy, not only has the internet sort of made Luigi Mangione, which is fun to say, into a cause celebra. But even here at Matt Lewis and the news, I have a friend and supporter who has been, watching the show and supporting the show for years, that I saw she was cheering him on for this. So this is not some weird, obscure thing. I mean, this guy has become something of a folk hero. And there is a sense that these CEO and these health insurance companies had it coming. I am frankly a little surprised to see that. But what do you make of it?
I'm not particularly surprised to see that, because I think it's a symptom of what has steadily occurred in American political life in recent years, in media discourse, in popular discourse, in discourse online, of every aspect, every political debate, every political disagreement, every aspect of division and cause for division or disagreement or discontent in American life is now framed as there is no more nuance, there are no more shades of gray in public discussion of any of these topics, right? Everything is now a black and white morality play between heroes and villains. And this is a case where, again, a disturbed young man, clearly someone who, again, we don't know exactly what happened. You mentioned that he was very prosperous, very good looking, wouldn't seem to fit the incel mold, right? But what seems to be the case from a lot of the recent reporting is indicating is that he sort of steadily declined into the same kind of paranoia and rage and indignation that defines a lot of those people after these medical issues emerged and he started to withdraw from society and started to suffer from the same kind of mental and physical ailments, and saw himself as a hero enacting some kind of righteous symbolic attack on an evil all-powerful force beyond control of the common man, beyond control of the proletariat, which was a term that was used to paint his actions in a sympathetic light by New York Magazine. There is no justification for murder as a response to political grievance or political disagreement. There are a lot of things that I think should be changed about the American constitutional structure, about different facets of our political life, of economic life in this country, of cultural life in this country. But the way we should address those problems is through is not through it's not through killing, right? It is fundamentally antithetical to the American constitutional idea, to basic American norms, to basic norms of free and civil society, suggest that because healthcare is and health insurance and the way health insurance is the way the industry is built in this country has many issues, which it unquestionably does, but a justifiable response to that is to go out and murder a man in cold blood on a Manhattan sidewalk.
Well, I would point out John Wilkes Booth was a very good-looking actor who was delusional and really thought he would be greeted as a hero, and that did not happen. So this wouldn't be the first time that someone has kind of thrown their young, promising life away for delusions of grandeur. One of his heroes, one of Mangione's heroes, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I'm not watching nearly as much cable TV as I used to, and therefore I'm reading, so it's possible that I mispronounce things in a way I didn't used to. But one of his heroes was the Unabomber, and I just finished listening to. This is sort of apropos. Well, it's not apropos of nothing, but where I'm going with this is a little bit of a non sequitur. But Apple just put out a really cool series about the Unabomber, which I listened to the whole thing. And I don't know, did you know this? It was women who took him down. It was his sister-in-law. That part I knew. She read the manifesto and recognized that her brother-in-law had written these crazy letters. But it was in addition to this sister-in-law of Ted Kaczynski, two female FBI agents who really pushed to get Kaczynski. The male agents were skeptical. They did not believe that he was responsible for it. And that was my big takeaway. I don't know if you've had a chance to check that out or if you knew about this. Maybe I'm just behind the eight ball.
I didn't know that actually, but I haven't read up on that story and on his case in a long time. He was hiding out. He was in a cabin somewhere, wasn't he? And they finally tracked him down,
Mm-hmm.
and that was how he got caught. Am I getting that right?
Yeah. And part of the problem was the FBI experts said that he had to be within 500 miles of San Francisco. That's what they had determined based on where bombs had been mailed from. And obviously that was wrong, but it was his sister-in-law who saw. And there's a big argument as to whether newspapers like the New York Times and the Washington Post should actually publish the manifesto. They decided to do it. His sister-in-law recognized his writing and his ideas. And then it was two different female agents who actually pushed the FBI to go after him because a lot of the male agents didn't think it was him. They thought it was these Dungeons and Dragons players from Illinois, I believe. So interesting podcast, definitely worth listening to. And apparently he is one of Mangione's heroes because, the Unabomber believed that technology was the problem and that it was willing to take the law into your own hands to try to kill and assassinate effectively scientists and people who were perpetuating technology like AI and things like that.
Yeah. I don't have too much to add to what we've already established, but no, I think it's a similar. People tend to forget. I think what we tend to lose sight of because everyone is so desensitized to cases like this now is that you have to be completely out of your right mind to go out and over the course of months map out precisely how you're going to murder someone and plan out how you're going to murder someone in the middle of the public street and to actually reach the point where you decide that the only way to achieve whatever goal you want or to access whatever feeling you're trying to access that you think is going to bring meaning to your life or that is going to make your life significant is to actually go out and take another person's life. It's a
Well,
clear.
he thought that the assassination, according to reports, was like the cleanest way to do this. There wouldn't be collateral damage. You go after the person responsible, hold somebody accountable for what they're doing to the public. And the Unabomber, similarly, there was potential for collateral damage, obviously, with bombings. But the larger question is why they think that this will change anything. Like the Unabomber did not slow down technology, and I think he killed 3 people. But if the Unabomber had killed a scientist a week, I don't think anybody would have said, "Okay, guys, let's stop work on on computers." I don't think it was going to work. or even call attention to some of his concerns. And I think the same thing is true in the case of the United Healthcare CEO.
But I'm sure he knew that if he was caught and if his identity was revealed, that it may not make any but it may not make any meaningful change in the real world, right? But it certainly would make waves in the artificial world of the internet and social media, and would at least create the illusion of affecting some kind of change or of making some kind of meaningful difference to real life by encouraging people to mobilize around him and to defend what he did. And sure enough, that's exactly what's happened.
Well, it's possible, the Unabomber thing happened in the 90s, obviously, and um, it was disconnected from these other things. But remember, in the 90s, there was like the Oklahoma City bombing, Branch Davidians, that was in Waco, and then you had Ruby Ridge. So those were related in some ways. And so it is possible that some other shoe will drop down the road. Guy, I wanted to ask you, I wanted to float this theory, right? So the same week, the ex-Marine who put a homeless man named Jordan, I think it's Neely, um, into a chokehold on the New York subway was acquitted. And I have no doubt the homeless guy was menacing or annoying, possibly dangerous. But he died. And I think there is something of a parallel here because, again, both 26-year-old, young white men, both sort of took the law into their own hands. I mean, it's not perfectly analogous, but in both cases, society had failed them, right? You've got kind of miscreants running amok on the subway, bothering decent, good Americans. You've got CEOs of healthcare companies who are bilking the public. Society's not rising to the occasion and holding people accountable. These young men take it upon themselves to do so, and really they're celebrated. This, call it vigilantism or something, but at least online, these people have become something of folk heroes. I didn't see anybody. I'm not online the way I used to be, but I don't know if I'm the only one to draw something of a parallel here. But what do you make of that?
I I hear what you're saying. I think it's a bit of a dicey comparison, especially if you take it to the extreme of, and I'm not saying you're doing this, Matt, but if you take it so far as to completely equate the two of them, I mean, Penny, I agree that it isn't, Penny did commit an act of vigilantism. He shouldn't be turned into a folk hero. He's no icon. He's no icon for whatever cause you think he may stand for, right? However, what Daniel Penny did in the Jordan Neely case was come to the defense of a subway car of people who felt, and I believe this is accurate based on a lot of the reporting from the time and reporting from the time in places like the New York Times. Jordan Neely was threatening people on the subway car. He was threatening a mother with a child in a baby carriage. He was saying that he wanted to kill people, that he was going to hurt people. Many people on the car were intimidated and helped Daniel Penny restrain him and hold him down and cheered him on when he put him in the chokehold. And then afterward, Daniel Penny cooperated with the police. He was fully, he behaved in a fully becoming manner throughout the trial. Compare that with Luigi Mangione, who did not commit an act of self-defense, right?
Yeah.
Was not looking to help other people who were being placed in that kind of situation, but simply went out either to know what it was like to kill another human being or to exact some kind of um some kind of deranged anarchistic justice, went out and took another person's life. I think there is a fundamental difference there. And
Well,
although it
okay, clearly Mangione set out to kill the CEO, and Perry did not set out that day, was not looking to kill a homeless person. So that's a huge difference in terms of motive and I think morality. Having said that, um, I've ridden the DC Metro many a time, and there's a lot of weird, crazy people on there, and they say weird, crazy things. And maybe if they got up and physically were attacking somebody, that would be a good motive. But words, I'm not sure that words are an appropriate motive. I'm not sure that you need to subdue somebody for 6 minutes. It really reminds me of the police kneeling on a suspect for many, many minutes until he died. Um, And look, this will sound very leftist, but you know, a homeless guy who talks shit on the subway versus a CEO who is, denying people care to increase his company's profit margin. Who has the bigger death count, Guy Denton? I would venture to say the CEO, in a very white collar, button down way, is arguably has more of a body count than the homeless guy.
I hear what you're saying, but I think we're treading into pretty dangerous territory with this. Or territory.
Well, that's what we do here. That's what
That
we
is
do here.
that
We're
is true.
not afraid to go there. We're playing devil's advocate, right?
It really is the wrong place. That's right. Well. Look, I mean, in the Neely case, right? No, I get what you're saying. I mean, we weren't there on that subway car. What we do know is that Jordan Neely did have a history of violence. He was deeply disturbed. And for all we know, it seemed palpable to all of the people who were on the car in that moment that he was about to attack them physically, that he was about to kill them. And the fact that when Daniel Penny restrained him, again, people came to his aid. People were more than happy to let it unfold. Now, absolutely, maybe he went too far. We weren't there. We don't know what exactly happened, what precisely was said, how exactly things escalated to that point, and what led to them getting out of hand. However, the danger, I think, in this is that, look, what was his name? Brian.
The CEO.
Brian Williams, was that his name?
I think that's an NBC News reporter, but
Brian something.
Formerly.
Brian something, right?
I'm forgetting
what the CEO's name was. If Mangione was, all of the evidence that has come out is indicating, if Mangione was entirely motivated by this desire to perform a kind of symbolic act and enact a kind of vengeance on the healthcare industry that had wronged him, and to, by extension, perform some sort of symbolic act on behalf of all the other Americans and everyday people who've been wronged by the healthcare industry and so on. The whole idea that taking this sort of revenge and taking the life of someone who simply made administrative decisions. Now, you could disagree with those administrative decisions and say that they were wrong and say that they were evil, but if it wasn't done in the hands of private companies, then someone somewhere along the line however healthcare is allocated and however healthcare is administered, someone somewhere is going to have to make decisions like that. If you want to reform healthcare, if you have objections to how healthcare is administered in this country, then a way to go about voicing those objections and a way to go about potentially motivating change might be to get involved with charity, to get involved with social activism, to get involved with groups that are actually trying to overhaul at the political or at the grassroots level the healthcare system and to create some kind of alternative where to ameliorate and address a lot of the flaws within it.
Easy for you to say, Guy Denton. You've got universal coverage.
I do. It's true. I can always fall back on my native citizenship. But still, the idea that because I have an objection to, or because I have a grievance with the way a service or the way an industry or the way a facet of politics is administered and carried out, that validates me going out to take another person's life, I think is completely antithetical to the very basis of American democracy and American civil society. And I think we start walking down a very dangerous road where we get into the idea of, well, maybe it's understandable. Oh, maybe he arguably deserved it, didn't he? Look at what he did. No, murder is wrong. What Luigi, and again, I'm not coming down on you with this, Matt, but murder is wrong. What Luigi did was disgusting, and he should in no way be taken as some sort of valorous revolutionary on the basis of it. He was a coward, and he deserves to be locked in. He deserves to face lifetime imprisonment.
Let's see. So it's Brian Thompson, I believe, is the CEO's
name. That's right.
I'm also a couple. I'm reminded of the St. Louis, the Ferguson. Remember the what's the kid's name who shot people in Ferguson, Missouri during?
Was Michael Brown?
Well, Michael Brown was the hands up. Didn't really have his hands up, but you know. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. The white kid who's been celebrated by the American right, by the conservatives of this country. Years ago, back in the 80s, there was a guy named Bernard Gaetz, who was, I think he was being mugged on the subway, and he shot and killed some of his assailants and became kind of a hero in New York. And I wonder if are things getting, I guess, a couple of hypotheses. One is that things have gotten kind of bad again in America. and that for that reason, there's vigilantism is being applauded. I also wonder if there's any parallel here to our modern political situation where, Donald Trump has put into the world that these bad people are out there and the institutions aren't going to protect us. There's a deep state government's not really there. They're incompetent. They're corrupt. They're not going to protect us. We need strong men to take matters into their own hands. And I wonder if this is like, I don't want to make too much of this, but is this a bigger story or is it a one-off or a two-off? I'm not sure.
No, entirely. I think it speaks entirely to a lot of larger scale problems like that. I mean, look, the whole idea is, well, the system is rotten to the core, right? At every level, every institution is corrupt. The deep state is running everything. Nothing you do matters. Your vote doesn't matter. Everyone's out to get you. Everyone's against you. So, fair enough. You can see how, in the eyes of, again, of a deranged person who feels that they've been discarded by society, how they would respond with, well, guess I have to take the law and justice into my own hands then. Because
the healthcare system's rigged. It's rigged against you.
Right.
Although, again, and this does not justify murdering somebody, but my understanding is that the United Healthcare's record of, responding to claims and paying out claims was much worse than the average for what that is worth. I don't think it justifies killing somebody, but that is my understanding. So.
And again, and really, what absolutely, there are problems with healthcare. Absolutely, we have a deeply flawed healthcare system in this country, but on some fundamental level, is in need of overhaul. But no, again, I think we've bludgeoned the point into the ground now, but it in no way justifies murder. However, I would also say, again, just to go back to your last point, Matt, which I think is very valid and really speaks to a lot of the bigger debates and the bigger discussions that should emerge from this tragedy. Again, you look at Mangione, and based on the evidence that is coming to light, we talked about this a little bit at the beginning. You can see someone who I think, which is becoming an increasingly disturbing trend among young men, and has been becoming an increasingly disturbing trend among young people in general, but particularly among young men, since the turn of the century and the advent of the internet. This desire to withdraw from real life, to withdraw from the real world, to become recluses and outcasts, and to not exist in real communities and in real and in reality, but in these bizarre online counter-reality communities that give them purpose give purpose in some kind of warped or perverse way that distorts how things actually are. And I think this is another symptom of that. It's a symptom of the wealthy, self-sufficient, atomized kind of society we inhabit, where it is entirely possible for people to live completely reclusive, secluded lives and to still function successfully and to not have any real material deficiencies as a consequence of that, but to have deep spiritual and emotional deficiencies as a consequence of that. And I think this is what will probably come to light, is that this is another example of a case like that. These issues, these mental and physical issues, emerged in his life. He steadily retreated from everyone around him and from the deeply prosperous life he had built and the deeply prosperous and promising future that seemed ahead of him, and instead fell into this bizarre rabbit hole of reading the Unabomber and plotting to assassinate a healthcare executive. And I think that speaks to a deep rot in structures of community and civil society in America that some way or another need to be addressed, but I don't think politicians have been taking seriously enough.
And apparently he had a really big IQ, just like the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, but not big enough to leave the silencer or his fake ID behind. Drop the gun, as Michael Corleone is advised in The Godfather. He's bringing it with him to the McDonald's. Come on, bad idea. But you know who is not ready to walk away and become atomized is our own Guy Denton. He is single and ready to mingle. It is the holiday season. He would like to, see you under the mistletoe. And so if you're out there, maybe you're a U.S. citizen. Maybe you're looking to help a visitor, a stranger to our country. Guy is available this holiday season to hang out. Maybe a coffee date, Starbucks. We'll start simple and see where it goes from there. So anyway, you know where to find us. I'm just saying.
That was not the transition that I expected, Matt, but
Yeah.
I respect it.
Wait, but do you know who else is single and ready to mingle?
But I think this is where I thought you were going.
Matt Gaetz. Congressman Matt Gaetz, also single and ready to mingle. Now, you may want to take a dose of penicillin before you ring this one up. But did you see this guy, Denton? He is leaving Congress. He's not going to be the attorney general. He's not going to be your congressman from Florida. He is going to be the host of an OAN TV show, which I think is a step up, right? Isn't this what everybody wants? You don't want to be in Congress. You want to be a TV host or maybe even a podcast host. If you're really lucky, you could land one of these plum gigs like I've got. What do you make of this?
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's a natural next step for someone who built an entire career in politics, treating politics as though it was simply performance art. So where else realistically could he end up? And we talked, I think, a few weeks ago about how the news industry is in a bizarre position, and cable news in particular is becoming an increasingly niche and in many ways irrelevant product in American life. It's not where, particularly among young people, the majority of people turn to get their news and to learn about what's going on in the world anymore. But, it's nice to know that there's still enough of a safety net there and enough of a thriving industry there for someone like Matt Gaetz to find a secure occupation and feel at home.
Well, we wish him nothing but the best. See, good things do happen to bad people. So all the best to you, Matt Gaetz. We salute you, real American hero. Guy, I want to kick it to you in a minute or two to talk about your hijinks this weekend, which you teased for us last week. But a couple of Christmassy things that I want to talk about. First, have you seen Miracle on 34th Street before? Have you seen this movie?
I have, but that's another one. Not in a long time.
Yeah.
Not in years, but yes, I have.
All right, well, I just watched it again. When I was a kid, I hated it. It was on all the time. It was on constantly. I thought it was boring. Then I saw it years later. There were some things I liked about it, but I thought like unrealistic. Come on, Santa is going to like get off this trial. The guy's insane. He thinks he's Santa Claus. And I watched it the other night with my kids, and it's the first time I'd really seen it as an adult, at least in many years. And I realized the political subtext of this, which is that nobody wanted to admit he wasn't Santa because it was bad politics. There was like a Karl Rove type strategist advising the judge that he had to pretend that this guy was Kris Kringle or whatever. So anyway, I found it more plausible this time and much more enjoyable. And I guess it's proof. It's like a book. You keep revisiting books and it changes over years and it means more to you. And I guess I'm finally at the right age when I can enjoy Miracle on 34th Street.
Well, now I'm going to have to rewatch it. A, I'm probably overdue for a rewatch of it anyway because I don't really remember it. But B, now that I can watch it and appreciate and think about it in those sorts of intellectual terms, Matt, I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to resist.
Well, it is very, there are political incentives for everyone who ends up going along. Even Mr. Macy, I think it was, right? It's Macy's store. Whoever the head of the department store is where he is playing Santa, everyone has a political or PR reason to go along and pretend that this guy really is Kris Kringle. We don't really know if he is or not. But anyway, check it. If you haven't seen it in years, it is worth a rewatch. I mean, I don't put it up there with It's a Wonderful Life, but, check it out. I want to plug real quick. Did you have a chance to watch this video, my friend Jordan Seawick?
Why, I'm so glad you asked, Matt, because
did you see this?
Indeed I did.
As I walk down the street, every house I pass on by has a tree. It lights up and makes me cry, 'cause you don't have a tree. Decorate with me.
As I light the menorah, I don't want to bore ya with these candles, but I can't handle it. You never spun a dreidel, but just you wait, I'll let you know. Well, we kiss in the wonderland of snow.
Please meet me
under the mistletoe.
Please meet me.
Okay, so Jordan Seawick, I moved out to West Virginia 5-6 years ago around COVID. And my son, we get him piano lessons, and it's this guy, Jordan Seawick, who had just moved from New York City. He was actually on SNL. He appeared in, as a little kid, he was a kid on SNL with some Will Ferrell skits, and just a great musician. His wife is Bridget Ellsworth. That's the music store, Ellsworth Music Store, where my son took the lessons. Bridget Ellsworth. And Jordan did this duet. So this song, I think, the thing I really liked about it is it combines, if you're Jewish and you're married to a Christian, which, by the way, I went to a wedding a few years ago at the Breakers in Palm Beach. And the husband was Jewish and the wife was from Colombia and Catholic Christian. And they had this there was a rabbi and a preacher who were friends, and they do this wedding together, and they do them all the time. This is like a regular thing in Palm Beach, and they have like almost like a comedy act. It was really good. But I like this song a lot. What did you think?
I thought it was very wholesome. No, it was it's sweet to see something like that, especially because Christmas songs, you know, have really sort of the whole idea of a they used to be in England. There used to be it used to be a big pop culture concept, the idea of the Christmas number one. I don't know if it was quite the same in this country. My impression is it was a
Well, if you watch Love Actually, that's a subplot, right? It's probably the best subplot of Love Actually, is the aging rocker who's trying to, remake one of his songs and become the number one hit on the radio.
I've never seen Love Actually, so it would, and if I saw it, I know, and if I saw it now, it would probably just trigger my PTSD from having having lived in England. So it is what it is. But no, they used to, in England, it was always very very much expected. But every year there would be a competition among various artists to try and get the number one spot at Christmas with some big Christmas tinge kind of anthem. And there are even a lot of big pop songs that were very popular Christmas songs that were very popular in England, but I don't think are even particularly well known here. There are a couple from the early 70s by different glam rock bands, but really ingrained themselves in British popular culture and are still massive parts of it. And then really, I guess, in the late 80s into the 90s, that sort of disappeared. And I get the sense that it's true of this country too, but Christmas songs, new Christmas songs that are designed to become perennial, right? And to be played every year and to become essential pieces of holiday festivities and to be known by and to be sung along by kids in schools and to be played in every department store and to become universally known facets of popular culture. Those don't really exist anymore. And maybe we've lost sight of why exactly a lot of those songs were so wholesome and so appealing to begin with. And maybe getting back to basics of the style of that song is exactly what the music industry needs to revive them.
Well, I don't know how to pronounce it. Bill Nighy?
Right,
anyway,
yes.
He's the guy. He plays an aging rocker in Love Actually. And Love Actually there's like 6 different storylines that converge. And his is my favorite. And he's trying to get to be the number one Christmas song. And he ends up doing it. And you should watch it. It's definitely worth seeing. So Jordan, by the way, is great. And if you want something fun to do, this Saturday he won't be there, but pretty much every Saturday night he plays at the Bavarian Inn in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, in the basement. It's called the Rathskeller, sort of a German bar. And he plays piano, and it'll be Christmas songs for the next few weeks. So not here this Saturday, but it'd be perfect from DC. You could be out here in an hour and 10 minutes or something. Stay at the Bavarian Inn. Great time. But check it out. And that song, I think it's called Please Meet Me Under the Mistletoe, is available pretty much everywhere. Anywhere fine music is sold, you can get it, including you can watch it on TikTok or Facebook. Guy Denton, you had an exciting weekend. Kiss Cancer Goodbye, is that what it was called?
It was. It was no road trip to the Bavarian Inn, Matt, which you and I will have to take at some point. But yes, Kiss Cancer Goodbye in Sarasota, Florida, a 3-day hybrid Kiss convention and music festival. That's how I spent my weekend.
All right, so it's in Sarasota. Any craziness? Was any sightings? Were you recognized? from the show. I'm guessing, there's obviously groupies to this show. What was it like?
I think their flight must have got delayed, or the invitation must have gotten lost, or something
You're
like
no
that.
Bill Nye, apparently.
That's true. Sadly, no groupies or anything like that. At least not toward me. No, it was. I will shamelessly plug that a couple of years, 2 years ago, getting on to 3 years ago now, I went to a Kiss, a similar hybrid Kiss convention music festival thing in Nashville, and a long report account of it in the Dispatch, which has a lot of nuggets like that in it. And that was a very strange experience, and a lot of peculiar things happened. This, less so. So to give you a sense of what this is like, it's bizarre. Sarasota is obviously not the most obvious of places to do something like this, and I think the idea is it's organized by this exceedingly wealthy bank manager or banking executive who lives in Sarasota, so he just wants to do it on his doorstep. And the impression that I get is that for him, it's just sort of like a grown man playing with his real life action figures, because he just really loves Kiss, and he has a gazillion dollars or whatever that he doesn't need to save. He could just spend on anything ridiculous or frivolous that he feels like. And so he flew down to Sarasota. Only two former living members of Kiss, in fairness, but then also a bunch of other people who either played with former living members of Kiss in their various solo bands, or just were involved with solo projects by other members of Kiss, or appeared on albums in some way, played instruments on an album, or guest wrote songs on an album, but only had pretty minimal involvement in the rich pageant that is Kiss's history. He brought loads of people like that together, a lot of other random musicians together too, who didn't even have anything to do with Kiss, and just set them all up and had them play Kiss songs for 3 days straight. So peculiar in and of itself. But also, because it's Sarasota and because it was quite a small venue, not that many people. I would say there were probably, at its busiest, there were probably around 300 people packed into one of the rooms watching the concerts unfold. And really, it's you think you're not a nerd, Matt, and then you voluntarily experience something that just affirms to you how much of a brazen, hopeless, unwashed nerd you are. Because walking around the actual expo room, the convention room, and seeing how the room is full of nothing but wide tables neatly arranged next to each other, covered almost to the ceiling in Kiss ephemera and Kiss memorabilia and Kiss books and Kiss posters and things like that. And thinking as you pass every single one of them, I want that, I want that, I want this, I want this, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy this. Oh, I don't have that. Oh, I've never seen that. I wonder if I can get that autographed. Oh, I want that. It really puts life in perspective.
Well, maybe if you're good, Santa will bring you some more Kiss memorabilia this year.
If we could all be so lucky.
All right. Well, the deal we make every week is you drive us wild, we drive you crazy. Guy Denton, it's cold gin time again. You know what that means?
Well, I'll tell you what it means, actually. I won a bottle of Kiss brand cold gin in the raffle at Kiss Cancer Goodbye.
Wow.
There was a raffle, and I won a bunch of rare Kiss ephemera too. Clearly, because my luck is just starting to turn in a very
Did you get it
positive
on the
direction.
airplane?
I actually gave it away.
Okay.
I gave it to a friend because I didn't want to keep it. But I really now if I had actually had enough foresight to remember that we always make that joke, and we could actually have a prop to use while making that
Would
joke.
have been great to hold up.
It would have
labeled Kiss, or was it just a bottle of like Hendrix or something?
It was labeled. I don't know what make of gin it actually is, but yes, a big heavy bottle with on the label, a picture of Kiss, and then Kiss presents or Kiss brand cold gin in giant blue letters.
Do you even care about this show? Are you even aware that we do this?
Well, what's funny is I won that raffle, and they gave me all these prizes in a big like basket. And I thought, how am I supposed to carry this around and then get this back to the Airbnb where we were staying to take all of it out and rearrange all of it? And immediately, as clearly she could read my mind, or she could sense what was going through my head, this woman appears behind me, taps me on the shoulder, and goes, "I'll give you a nice bag to carry that around in if you let me have that rum." because there was a bottle of Kiss brand rubbing it too. And naturally, I said, sure, why not? It seemed like a fair trade. But
I'm just amazing there were women at this thing. So that's a takeaway.
Actually, you know what? I'll tell you. There were a lot. There usually are a reasonable amount of women. Surprisingly, at things like this, there were a lot of kids too. I mean, mostly kids who'd been dragged there by their misguided parents, but still quite a few kids, quite a few women. The Kiss Army contains multitudes, man.
All right, my friend. Well, I love that you're part of this weird subculture here in America, and I think it's super interesting. And someday, when somebody assassinates you for the evil deeds you've committed, we will. Okay, we'll cut that out.
No, that should be the lead. We should move back to the beginning.
Famed podcaster Guy Denton today was okay. Guy Denton, anything you want to plug? This? Are you working on any book reviews, columns, anything like that?
I'm working on a couple of long, rambly reported things, actually, but when they'll actually materialize and I'll get everything together, I'm not sure quite yet. So I guess I'll have updates on those and coming in the near future on coming episodes.
I have a piece coming out on the Hill, hopefully, about whether Democrats should fight fire with fire and play hardball, especially when it comes to things like raising the debt ceiling and that kind of thing, the bailing Republicans out. And then long term, I'm working on a book review of a book on Earl Weaver, the famed Baltimore Oriole manager. It is fascinating so far. Probably a couple months before it'll publish at your Washington Free Beacon. But stay tuned for that. Guy Denton, always a pleasure, my friend.
Always great to see you too, Matt.
All right, we'll see you back here hopefully next week in the wrong place at the wrong time. The wrong stuff.
As I walk down the street, every house I pass on by has a tree. It lights up and makes me cry, 'cause you don't have a tree. Decorate with me.
As I light the menorah, I don't want to bore ya with these candles, but I can't handle it. You never spun a dreidel, but just you wait, I'll let you know. While we kiss in the wonderland of snow.
Please meet me.
Under the mistletoe.
Please meet me.
Under the mistletoe.
Can't believe you never seen It's a Wonderful Life, and you never hung a stocking over the fireplace, and you don't know why the reindeer fly.
As I fry some latkes, I know I forgot to ask you if you ever won chocolate Gaetz or seen the candles melt on a crazy nights of the Festival of Lights.
Please meet me.
Under the mistletoe.
Please meet me.
Under the mistletoe. Do-do-do. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do.
I came home last night and I couldn't believe you had decorated a Douglas fir just for me.
And you brought home a menorah and made a dreidel out of clay. You made the best potato pancakes I've ever had to this day. Please meet me under the mistletoe. Under the mistletoe. Under the mistletoe.